as the evening settles around you and the world grows quiet, let us embark on a journey through the most perplexing and haunting mysteries of Five Nights at Freddy's. Tonight, we'll slowly unravel the complex web of secrets, theories, and hidden truths that have captivated fans for nearly a decade. So settle into your bed, let your breathing slow, and allow yourself to drift through the darkest corners of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where nothing is quite what it seems. Close your eyes and imagine stepping into a world where children's laughter echoes through empty halls, where animatronic entertainers hide sinister secrets, and where the line between life and death has been blurred beyond recognition. The Five Nights at Freddy's universe is built upon layers of mystery, each revelation leading to new questions, each answer opening doors to deeper enigmas. In the gentle darkness of your room, let your mind wander to the very beginning of our tale, to the foundational mystery that started it all, the identity and motivations of the man known only as the Purple Guy. For years, this shadowy figure appeared in pixelated minigames, always lurking in the background, always connected to tragedy and death. His purple sprite became synonymous with evil in the FNAF community. But who was he really? And what drove him to commit such unspeakable acts? The Purple Guy, as we now know, is William Afton, co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment and the architect of nearly every tragedy in the FNAF timeline. But understanding William Afton requires us to peel back layers of deception, corporate cover-ups, and supernatural horror. He wasn't simply a random killer who stumbled into Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. He was one of its creators, a man who helped build the very empire he would ultimately destroy through his twisted obsessions. William Afton's story begins in the early days of Fazbear Entertainment, when he partnered with Henry Emily to create a chain of family restaurants featuring animatronic entertainers. On the surface, Afton appeared to be a successful businessman and inventor, someone who understood both the technical aspects of robotics and the commercial appeal of children's entertainment. But beneath this respectable facade lurked something far more sinister, an obsession with death, with control, and with the boundaries between life and the mechanical. The first major mystery surrounding William Afton involves his initial descent into murder. What transformed a successful businessman into a child killer? The games provide hints but never explicit answers, leaving us to piece together the psychological profile of a man who had become one of gaming's most notorious villains. Some theories suggest that Afton's obsession began with the death of his own son, the crying child, in what became known as the Bite of 83. The trauma of losing his child may have triggered a psychotic break, leading him to believe that death was not permanent, that consciousness could be preserved and transferred. This brings us to one of the most debated mysteries in FNAF lore, the distinction between the Bite of 83 and the Bite of 87. For years, fans believed there was only one Bite incident, the Bite of 87 mentioned by Phone Guy in the first game. But FNAF 4 introduced evidence of an earlier incident in 1983, creating confusion and debate that continues to this day. The Bite of 83 involved William Afton's youngest son, the crying child, who was killed when his older brother and friends shoved his head into Fredbear's mouth as a cruel prank. The animatronic's jaws clamped down, crushing the child's skull and leading to his death. The Bite of 87, by contrast, was a separate incident that occurred 4 years later, involving a different victim and different circumstances. This later bite was the reason the animatronics were no longer allowed to roam freely during the day, as Phone Guy explains in the first game. The victim of the bite of 87 lost their frontal lobe but survived, unlike the crying child who died from his injuries. The identity of both the perpetrator and victim of the bite of 87 remains one of FNAF's enduring mysteries, with theories ranging from it being caused by Mangle to it involving Jeremy Fitzgerald, the protagonist of FNAF 2. But let us return to William Afton and his transformation into a killer. The death of his son may have been the catalyst, but Afton's crimes went far beyond simple revenge or grief-driven madness. He became fascinated with the concept of remnant, a supernatural substance that he believed could preserve consciousness after death. This obsession led him to begin experimenting on children, killing them to harvest their remnant, and use it in his animatronic creations. The missing children incident represents the core tragedy of the FNAF universe. William Afton lured 5 children into the back room of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where he murdered them and stuffed their bodies into the animatronic suits. These children, Gabriel, Jeremy, Susie, Fritz and Cassidy, became the vengeful spirits that would haunt the franchise for years to come. Their souls possessed the animatronics, transforming Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy and Golden Freddy into instruments of supernatural revenge. The mystery of how exactly the children's souls came to possess the animatronics involves the concept of remnant, a substance that Scott Cawthon has described as the physical manifestation of a soul. When a person dies in close proximity to metal, particularly metal that has been heated or subjected to strong emotions, their soul can become bound to that metal. This explains why the murdered children's spirits became trapped within the animatronic suits where their bodies were hidden. But William Afton's crimes didn't end with the missing children incident. His obsession with remnant and immortality led him to create increasingly sophisticated animatronics designed specifically for killing and harvesting remnant. The Funtime animatronics, featured in Sister Location, represent the pinnacle of Afton's twisted engineering. These machines were designed with hidden compartments for storing children, voice mimicry systems for luring victims, and extraction mechanisms for harvesting remnant. Circus Baby, the centerpiece of Afton's Funtime collection, holds a particularly tragic place in the FNAF mythology. This animatronic was designed to kill children, but its first victim was Afton's own daughter, Elizabeth. Despite her father's warnings to stay away from Baby, Elizabeth was drawn to the colourful animatronic and was killed when Baby's chest cavity opened and pulled her inside. Elizabeth's soul possessed Circus Baby, creating a complex dynamic where Afton's daughter became trapped within one of his own killing machines. The mystery of Elizabeth Afton and Circus Baby raises questions about William Afton's relationship with his family. Did he truly love his children, or were they simply subjects for his experiments? The evidence suggests a complicated truth. Afton may have cared for his family in his own twisted way, but his obsession with remnant and immortality ultimately consumed everything else. He created Circus Baby knowing it was dangerous, yet he brought his daughter to the facility where she would die. This pattern of self-destructive behaviour suggests that Afton's madness had progressed to the point where he could no longer distinguish between love and experimentation. Michael Afton, William's eldest son, represents another layer of mystery in the FNAF timeline. Initially believed by many fans to be the protagonist of multiple games, Michael's true identity and motivations have been subjects of intense debate. We know that Michael was responsible for his younger brother's death in the Bite of 83, that he worked at various Freddy Fazbear locations under assumed names, and that he eventually confronted his father in an attempt to undo the damage that had been done. But Michael Afton's story takes a supernatural turn in Sister Location, where he is sent by his father to the underground facility housing the Funtime animatronics. There, he encounters Ennard, a fusion of all the Funtime animatronics controlled by his sister Elizabeth's spirit. Ennard uses Michael as a skin suit, hollowing out his body and wearing it to escape the facility. Michael should have died from this experience, but remnant in his system kept him alive as a walking corpse, his skin rotting away to reveal the mechanical endoskeleton beneath. This transformation raises profound questions about the nature of life and death in the FNAF universe. Michael Afton becomes something between human and machine, alive but not truly living, driven by a need to find his father and put an end to the cycle of death and possession that has consumed his family. His purple, rotting appearance in the later games mirrors his father's purple sprite, creating visual parallels that suggest both men have been fundamentally changed by their encounters with Remnant and the supernatural. The mystery of Henry Emily, William Afton's business partner, adds another dimension to the FNAF story. Henry represents the moral opposite of Afton. Where Afton became obsessed with cheating death and controlling others, Henry sought to end the suffering that his partner had caused. Henry's daughter Charlotte was Afton's first victim, killed outside a Freddy Fazbear's pizza and left to possess the puppet, one of the most important animatronics in the FNAF lore. The puppet, also known as the marionette, serves as a protector of the other possessed animatronics and a guardian of the murdered children's souls. Charlotte's spirit, speaking through the puppet, guides the other children and helps them find peace. The puppet's role in giving life to the other animatronics is referenced in the famous minigame from FNAF 2, where we see the puppet placing masks on the dead children, symbolically binding their souls to the animatronic suits. Henry Emily's ultimate plan for ending the FNAF saga involves gathering all the possessed animatronics in one location and burning them, releasing the trapped souls and finally putting an end to the cycle of violence. This plan comes to fruition in Pizzeria Simulator, where Henry lures Afton, now trapped in the Springtrap suit, along with the other possessed animatronics, into a fake pizzeria that serves as an elaborate trap. The fire that consumes the pizzeria is meant to be a final purification, destroying the remnant that has kept the souls bound to the physical world. But even Henry's carefully laid plans cannot fully contain the evil that William Afton has unleashed. The mystery of Glitch Trap, introduced in Help Wanted, suggests that Afton's consciousness has found a way to survive even the destruction of his physical form. By scanning the circuit boards from the old animatronics into a virtual reality game, Fazbear Entertainment inadvertently digitized Afton's remnant-infused consciousness, allowing him to exist as a computer virus capable of possessing anyone who interacts with the VR system. Glitch Trap represents a new form of the William Afton mystery. No longer bound by physical limitations, he can spread like a digital plague, corrupting anyone who comes into contact with his code. The character of Vanny, introduced in Security Breach, appears to be one of Afton's victims, a woman whose mind has been taken over by the Glitch Trap virus. Through Vanny, Afton continues his killing spree in a new era, proving that his evil transcends death, fire, and even the digital realm. The mystery of the FNAF 4 box represents one of Scott Cawthon's most enigmatic puzzles. This locked box, shown at the end of FNAF 4 with the text, "Some things are best left forgotten for now," has never been officially opened or explained. Scott has stated that the contents of the box would have been the pieces put together, implying that it contained the solution to FNAF 4's mysteries. However, he also suggested that the community's interpretation of the story had diverged so far from his original intent that opening the box would no longer make sense. This brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of FNAF mysteries, the relationship between Scott Cawthon's intended story and the community's interpretation of that story. Scott has admitted that fan theories have sometimes influenced the direction of the franchise, and that some mysteries were left deliberately ambiguous to allow for multiple interpretations. The FNAF 4 box represents the ultimate example of this phenomenon, a mystery that may never be solved because its solution no longer fits the story that has evolved through community interpretation and subsequent game releases. The identity of the protagonist in FNAF 4 remains another contentious mystery. Initially, many fans believed that the player character was the crying child, experiencing nightmares before his death in the Bite of 83. However, evidence from later games suggests that the protagonist might actually be Michael Afton, experiencing guilt-induced nightmares about his role in his brother's death. The bedroom in FNAF 4 contains pills and medical equipment, suggesting that the protagonist is receiving treatment for trauma or injury, which would fit with Michael's character arc. The mystery of Golden Freddy adds another layer of complexity to the FNAF lore. Unlike the other possessed animatronics, Golden Freddy appears to be a supernatural entity rather than a physical suit. This ghostly bear can teleport, appear and disappear at will, and seems to have powers beyond those of the other spirits. The identity of the child possessing Golden Freddy has been a subject of debate, with evidence pointing to Cassidy, one of the missing children, as the most likely candidate. But Golden Freddy's mystery goes deeper than just the identity of the possessing spirit. Some theories suggest that Golden Freddy is possessed by two souls, Cassidy and the crying child, which would explain the animatronic's unusual properties and behaviour. The crying child's connection to Golden Freddy is suggested by the plushie that appears throughout FNAF 4, which bears a striking resemblance to the ghostly animatronic. The concept of the one you should not have killed introduces another dimension to the Golden Freddy mystery. In Ultimate Custom Night, this phrase is associated with Golden Freddy, and suggests that one of the murdered children refuses to move on, instead choosing to torment William Afton for eternity. This vengeful spirit, likely Cassidy, represents the idea that some wrongs cannot be forgiven, some souls cannot find peace, and some evil must be punished forever. The mystery of the Fredbear family diner and its relationship to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza involves understanding the early history of the franchise. Fredbear's was the original restaurant, founded by Henry Emily and William Afton before the creation of the larger Freddy Fazbear's Pizza chain. The diner featured two animatronics, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, both of which were Springlock suits that could function as both animatronics and wearable costumes. The Springlock mechanism represents one of the most horrifying concepts in FNAF lore. These suits contained spring-loaded locks that would snap into place when the suit was in animatronic mode, but could be wound back to allow a human to wear the suit. However, the spring locks were extremely dangerous. Any moisture, sudden movement, or mechanical failure could cause them to snap back into place, impaling the wearer with dozens of metal spikes. William Afton's fate is intimately connected to these spring-lock suits. After the missing children incident, when the spirits of his victims began to haunt the pizzeria, Afton returned to the abandoned restaurant to destroy the animatronics. However, the children's spirits cornered him in the safe room, forcing him to hide inside the Spring Bonnie suit. The Springlocks activated, crushing and impaling Afton, but the remnant in his system prevented him from dying. Instead, he became trapped within the suit, transforming into Springtrap, a horrifying fusion of man and machine, kept alive by supernatural forces and an unquenchable thirst for revenge. The mystery of the safe rooms adds another layer to the FNAF timeline. These hidden rooms, present in every Freddy Fazbear's location, were used to store the dangerous Springlock suits after they were decommissioned. The rooms were deliberately left off the building plans and were invisible to the animatronics navigation systems, making them perfect hiding places for both William Afton's crimes and his eventual demise. The Bite of 87 mystery involves not just the identity of the perpetrator and victim, but also the broader implications of the incident for the FNAF timeline. This event marked the end of the animatronics' daytime roaming privileges and contributed to the decline of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as a business. The Bite also represents a turning point in public perception of the animatronics, transforming them from beloved children's entertainers into objects of fear and suspicion. Various theories have been proposed for the identity of the Bite of 87 perpetrator. Mangle, the dismantled Fox animatronic from FNAF 2, is a popular candidate due to its damaged state and aggressive behaviour. The toy animatronics, with their facial recognition systems and connection to a criminal database, represent another possibility. They may have malfunctioned and attacked someone they incorrectly identified as a threat. The victim of the Bite of 87 is equally mysterious. Jeremy Fitzgerald, the protagonist of FNAF 2, is often suggested as the victim, particularly given that his final shift takes place on the day shift, exactly when Phone Guy says the bite occurred. The fact that Jeremy's paycheck is dated November 12th, 1987, and that this is his last appearance in the series, supports the theory that he was the bite victim. The mystery of Phone Guy's identity and fate represents another enduring puzzle in FNAF lore. This helpful voice, who provides instructions and warnings to the night guards, clearly knows more about the pizzeria's dark history than he initially lets on. Phone Guy's calls reveal that he has worked at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza for years, that he has witnessed multiple incidents and cover-ups, and that he ultimately becomes a victim of the very animatronics he tried to help others avoid. Phone Guy's death, heard during his final call in FNAF 1, involves being cornered by multiple animatronics in what appears to be the office where the player sits. The sounds of Freddy's music box, followed by screaming and the call cutting out, suggest that Phone Guy met the same fate as many night guards before him. However, his extensive knowledge of the pizzeria's systems and history raises questions about his true role in the company, and whether he was complicit in covering up William Afton's crimes. The mystery of the Shadow animatronics, Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie, introduces supernatural elements that go beyond simple possession. These dark, glitchy entities appear throughout the series, often associated with hidden areas, secret minigames, and important revelations. Unlike the other possessed animatronics, the shadow entities don't seem to be controlled by the spirits of murdered children, but rather represent something more abstract, perhaps the negative emotions and trauma associated with the Springlock suits. Shadow Bonnie, also known as RWQFS, FASXC, appears to help the player in certain minigames, guiding them toward important discoveries or helping to free trapped souls. Shadow Freddy, by contrast, often appears as a more sinister presence, leading the other animatronics toward their destruction in the FNAF 3 minigames. The true nature and purpose of these shadow entities remains one of FNAF's most abstract mysteries. The concept of remnant itself represents a fundamental mystery in FNAF lore. This supernatural substance, described as molten metal infused with human emotion and memory, serves as the scientific explanation for how souls can possess inanimate objects. But Remnant raises as many questions as it answers. How exactly does it work? Can it be artificially created? What are its limitations? William Afton's experiments with Remnant drive much of the series' plot, but the substance itself remains poorly understood. The scooping room in Sister Location introduces the concept of remnant injection, where the substance can be extracted from one source and implanted into another. This process allows for the transfer of consciousness and memory, explaining how the Funtime animatronics can contain the remnant of multiple victims. The scooper itself becomes a character in the story, a machine designed by William Afton to harvest and redistribute remnant, according to his twisted experiments. The mystery of the Funtime animatronic's true purpose reveals the depth of William Afton's planning and cruelty. These machines were not simply entertainment robots, but sophisticated killing devices designed to lure, capture and kill children while appearing to be harmless performers. Each Funtime animatronic contained hidden compartments, voice mimicry systems, and other features that made them perfect predators. Ballora, with her emphasis on music and dance, could lure children with her performances before striking. Funtime Foxy's voice mimicry allowed it to impersonate authority figures or loved ones to gain a child's trust. Funtime Freddy's hand puppet, Bon Bon, could detach and pursue victims independently. These features reveal that William Afton had moved beyond opportunistic killing to systematic, premeditated murder using purpose-built machines. The mystery of Ennard represents the culmination of the Funtime animatronic story. This entity, formed from the fusion of all the Funtime animatronics, is controlled primarily by Elizabeth Afton's spirit, but contains remnant from multiple sources. Ennard's ability to mimic human appearance by wearing Michael Afton's skin demonstrates the advanced capabilities that William Afton built into his creations. But Ennard's story doesn't end with Sister Location. The entity eventually ejects itself from Michael's body and takes on a new form as Molten Freddy, appearing in Pizzeria Simulator as one of the animatronics that Henry Emily seeks to destroy. This transformation raises questions about the continuity of consciousness in possessed animatronics. Is Molten Freddy still Elizabeth? Or has the fusion of multiple souls created something entirely new? The mystery of the Pizzeria Simulator ending involves understanding Henry Emily's master plan and whether it truly succeeded in ending the FNAF saga. Henry's speech during the fire reveals his deep guilt over his role in creating the technology that William Afton perverted for evil purposes. His plan to gather all the possessed animatronics and burn them represents an attempt at redemption, a way to finally free the trapped souls and end the cycle of violence. However, the survival of William Afton's consciousness as Glitch Trap suggests that Henry's plan was only partially successful. While the physical forms of the animatronics were destroyed, the digital remnant that Afton had become found a way to persist in the virtual realm. This raises questions about the nature of remnant itself. Can it truly be destroyed, or does it simply change form? The mystery of the Help Wanted VAR game within the FNAF universe represents a new chapter in the saga. Fazbear Entertainment's attempt to rebrand itself by turning its dark history into a video game backfires spectacularly when the scanning of old circuit boards inadvertently digitizes William Afton's consciousness. This meta-narrative, where the fictional company creates a game about its own history, blurs the line between reality and fiction within the FNAF universe. Glitchtrap's ability to possess players through the VR system introduces new questions about the nature of consciousness and identity in the digital age. If Afton can exist as a computer virus, what does that mean for the concept of death? Can digital consciousness be considered truly alive? The character of Vanny, apparently possessed by Glitchtrap, suggests that Afton's influence can extend beyond the virtual realm back into the physical world. The mystery of Security Breach and the Pizzaplex represents the latest evolution of the FNAF saga. This massive entertainment complex built on the ruins of the old Freddy Fazbear's Pizza locations contains secrets that connect it to the franchise's dark history. The presence of Vanny, the return of William Afton in a new form, and the introduction of Gregory as a new protagonist all suggest that the cycle of violence and possession continues despite Henry Emily's attempts to end it. The glamrock animatronics of Security Breach present a new mystery. Are they possessed by the same spirits that haunted the original animatronics, or are they new entities entirely? Their behaviour suggests some form of supernatural influence, but the nature of that influence remains unclear. The presence of the Blob, a massive amalgamation of old animatronic parts, suggests that Remnant from the previous games has found its way into the new location. The mystery of Gregory's identity and connection to the larger FNAF story represents one of the newest puzzles in the franchise. This young boy, trapped in the Pizzaplex overnight, seems to have knowledge and abilities beyond what a normal child should possess. Some theories suggest that Gregory might be connected to the crying child or other important characters from the series past, while others propose that he represents a new generation of victims in Afton's ongoing campaign of terror. The Afton family's complete story represents perhaps the most complex mystery in all of FNAF lore. This family, torn apart by William's obsessions and crimes, serves as the emotional core of the entire franchise. Each member of the family, William, his wife, whose name and fate remain unknown, Michael, Elizabeth, and the crying child, represents a different aspect of the tragedy that unfolds across the games. The mystery of Mrs. Afton, William's wife and the mother of his children, remains one of the most glaring omissions in FNAF lore. Her absence from the story raises questions about her fate and her knowledge of her husband's crimes. Did she die before William's descent into madness, or did she discover his true nature and flee? Her absence from family photos and complete lack of mention in the games suggests that her story may be too dark even for the FNAF universe. The concept of the Happiest Day minigame from FNAF 3 represents the ultimate goal of the entire FNAF saga, the peaceful resolution of the children's suffering. This minigame, where the crying child finally receives the birthday party he never had, symbolises the release of all the trapped souls and the end of their torment. However, the fact that some spirits, particularly the one you should not have killed, refuse to move on suggests that perfect resolution may be impossible. The mystery of the multiple endings in various FNAF games reflects the complex moral landscape of the franchise. Unlike many horror stories, FNAF doesn't offer simple solutions or clear-cut victories over evil. The good endings often come at great cost, requiring sacrifice and loss. The bad endings suggest that some cycles of violence cannot be broken, that some evil is too persistent to be completely destroyed. The role of technology in FNAF mysteries extends beyond simple animatronics to encompass broader themes about artificial intelligence, consciousness, and the relationship between humans and machines. William Afton's ability to transfer consciousness between bodies, the animatronic's apparent self-awareness, and the digital existence of Glitchtrap all raise questions about what it means to be alive in a world where the boundaries between organic and artificial intelligence are increasingly blurred. The mystery of the FNAF timeline itself represents one of the most challenging aspects of understanding the franchise. With games released out of chronological order, contradictory evidence, and deliberate misdirection, piecing together the exact sequence of events requires careful analysis of subtle clues and environmental storytelling. The timeline is further complicated by the fact that some events may occur in parallel timelines or alternate realities, particularly in the later games. The concept of parallel universes or alternate timelines in FNAF lore suggests that some mysteries may not have single definitive answers. The differences between the game universe, the book universe, and the movie universe imply that the FNAF story exists in multiple versions, each with its own variations on the core themes and characters. This multiplicity of narratives allows for different interpretations of the same events and characters. The mystery of Scott Cawthon's original vision versus the evolved story represents a meta-mystery that affects how we interpret all other aspects of FNAF lore. Scott has admitted that fan theories and community interpretation have influenced the direction of the franchise, sometimes in ways that diverged from his original plans. This collaborative storytelling approach means that some mysteries may have multiple correct answers, depending on which version of the story we're examining. The psychological horror elements of FNAF mysteries go beyond simple jump scares to explore deeper themes of guilt, trauma, and the consequences of our actions. The recurring motifs of children's birthday parties, family restaurants, and entertainment venues create a contrast between innocence and horror that makes the franchise's mysteries particularly unsettling. The corruption of spaces and experiences that should be joyful and safe reflects real-world anxieties about trust, safety, and the hidden darkness that can lurk beneath pleasant facades. The mystery of redemption in the FNAF universe asks whether anyone can truly be forgiven for their crimes, and whether some actions are so heinous that they place the perpetrator beyond the possibility of redemption. William Afton's continued existence and refusal to accept death suggest that he has chosen damnation over redemption, while characters like Michael Afton and Henry Emily seek to atone for their roles in the tragedy through sacrifice and suffering. But our journey through the labyrinthine mysteries of Five Nights at Freddy's has only just begun. As your breathing deepens and your mind settles into the rhythm of rest, let us delve even deeper into the enigmas that have captivated millions of fans worldwide. There are layers upon layers of secrets still to uncover, connections still to be made, and questions that probe the very nature of existence itself. The mystery of the crying child's name represents one of the most personal yet elusive puzzles in FNAF lore. This young boy, William Afton's youngest son, appears throughout FNAF 4 but is never given a proper name. Fans have speculated endlessly about his identity, with some suggesting he might be named Evan, Chris, or even sharing a name with his father. The lack of a canonical name for such an important character reflects Scott Cawthon's approach to storytelling. Sometimes the most important details are the ones left unsaid, allowing players to fill in the gaps with their own interpretations and emotional connections. The crying child's relationship with his plushies, particularly the Fredbear plush that seems to speak to him, opens up questions about the nature of consciousness and communication in the FNAF universe. The plush appears to have its own personality and agenda, offering comfort to the child while also seeming to know things that an inanimate object shouldn't know. Some theories suggest that the plush is possessed by the spirit of Charlotte Emily, Henry's daughter, who seeks to protect other children from her father's business partner's evil. Others propose that the plush represents the crying child's own psychic abilities, manifesting as a form of imaginary friend with supernatural knowledge. The mystery of the nightmare animatronics and their relationship to reality forms another complex puzzle in FNAF 4. These twisted, horrifying versions of the classic characters appear to be products of the crying child's traumatized mind, but they possess details and behaviors that suggest they might be more than simple nightmares. The nightmare animatronics know things about the pizzeria's layout and history that a child shouldn't know, and their behavior patterns mirror those of the real animatronics in ways that suggest some form of supernatural connection. The concept of fear as a tangible force in the FNAF universe emerges through the nightmare sequences. These dreams, if they are indeed dreams, seem to have physical consequences and lasting effects on the dreamer. The idea that intense fear and trauma can create supernatural manifestations that persist beyond the original experience adds another layer to the franchise's exploration of consciousness and reality. The nightmare animatronics might represent the physical manifestation of the crying child's terror, given form and substance by the same forces that allow Remnant to preserve consciousness after death. The mystery of the hospital equipment in the FNAF 4 bedroom raises questions about the timeline and the identity of the dreamer. The pills, flowers and medical devices suggest that someone is recovering from serious injury or illness, but whether this is the crying child before his death, or Michael Afton dealing with guilt and trauma years later, remains unclear. The presence of this equipment transforms the bedroom from a simple child's room into a medical recovery space, suggesting that the nightmares might be induced by medication, trauma, or the liminal state between life and death. The role of guilt in shaping the FNAF mysteries cannot be overstated. Michael Afton's guilt over his brother's death drives much of his character arc, leading him to seek out his father and attempt to undo the damage that has been done. Henry Emily's guilt over his role in creating the technology that William Afton perverted for evil purposes motivates his final plan to end the cycle of violence. Even William Afton, in his own twisted way, might be driven by guilt over his son's death, though his response to that guilt takes the form of obsession and murder rather than redemption. The mystery of the Fredbear and Friends television show, glimpsed briefly in FNAF 4, provides insight into the early days of Fazbear Entertainment and the cultural impact of the animatronic characters. This show, apparently broadcast in 1983, suggests that the Freddy Fazbear characters had achieved significant popularity and cultural penetration beyond just the restaurants. The existence of a television show implies a level of corporate success and media presence that makes the subsequent tragedies even more shocking. These weren't just local restaurant mascots, but beloved cultural icons whose corruption would have affected countless children. The concept of the happiest day extends beyond the simple minigame to represent a fundamental theme in FNAF lore. The idea that healing and peace are possible even after the most traumatic experiences. The birthday party that the crying child never got to enjoy becomes a symbol of restoration and completion, a way for all the murdered children to find the joy and celebration that was stolen from them. The fact that this resolution requires the cooperation and sacrifice of multiple characters suggests that healing from trauma is often a collective effort rather than an individual journey. The mystery of the multiple Freddy Fazbear's pizza locations and their relationships to each other reveals the scope of William Afton's crimes and the corporate structure that enabled them. Each location seems to have its own tragic history, its own victims, and its own supernatural manifestations. The original Fredbear's Family Diner, the FNAF 2 location with its toy animatronics, the classic FNAF 1 pizzeria, and the various other establishments mentioned throughout the series create a network of haunted locations that span decades and multiple states. The corporate cover-ups and legal manoeuvring that allowed Fazbear Entertainment to continue operating despite multiple deaths and disappearances reflect real-world concerns about corporate responsibility and the protection of profits over people. The company's ability to rebrand, relocate, and continue operating after each tragedy suggests a level of institutional corruption that goes beyond William Afton's individual crimes. The mystery of how the company managed to survive so many scandals and continue attracting customers speaks to the power of nostalgia, marketing, and willful ignorance in the face of obvious danger. The role of the security guards throughout the FNAF series represents another layer of mystery. These individuals, often working under assumed names and with questionable backgrounds, serve as the player's avatar in experiencing the horror of the haunted pizzerias. But their motivations for taking these obviously dangerous jobs remain largely unexplored. Are they seeking answers to their own questions about the pizzeria's history? Are they driven by financial desperation? Or are they, like Michael Afton, members of families affected by the tragedies who seek to understand or atone for past events? The mystery of Jeremy Fitzgerald's identity and fate in FNAF 2 exemplifies the ambiguous nature of many FNAF characters. This security guard works the night shift during some of the most dangerous periods in the pizzeria's history, dealing with malfunctioning toy animatronics and the presence of William Afton himself. Jeremy's final shift on the day shift, coinciding with the bite of 87, suggests that he may have been the victim of that attack. However, his survival, if he did survive, and his subsequent fate remain unknown, leaving players to speculate about his role in the larger story. The concept of the safe room, as both sanctuary and trap, reflects the dual nature of many elements in FNAF lore. These hidden rooms, designed to store dangerous Springlock suits away from public view, become the sites of both William Afton's crimes and his eventual punishment. The safe room where Afton dismantles the animatronics and is subsequently trapped in the Spring Bonnie suit represents the idea that our attempts to hide from the consequences of our actions often become the very places where those consequences catch up with us. The mystery of the animatronics' artificial intelligence and apparent consciousness raises questions about the nature of sentience and free will. Even before being possessed by human souls, the animatronics display behaviours that suggest some level of autonomous thought and decision-making. The toy animatronics' facial recognition systems and their ability to distinguish between adults and children imply sophisticated programming, while their aggressive behaviour toward adults suggests that they may have been programmed with some knowledge of the crimes committed at the pizzeria. The possession of the animatronics by human souls adds another layer to questions about consciousness and identity. Do the possessed animatronics retain the personalities and memories of the children who inhabit them, or do they become something entirely new? A fusion of human consciousness and artificial intelligence. The behaviour of characters like Circus Baby, who seems to retain Elizabeth Afton's personality while also displaying the calculating intelligence of her mechanical nature, suggests that possession creates hybrid entities that are neither fully human nor fully machine. The mystery of the puppet's special role among the possessed animatronics reflects Charlotte Emily's unique position in the FNAF story. As the first victim and the daughter of Henry Emily, Charlotte possesses knowledge and abilities that the other children lack. The puppet's ability to give life to the other animatronics, its role as protector and guide, and its apparent immunity to some of the limitations that affect other possessed characters suggest that Charlotte's spirit has evolved beyond simple possession into something more powerful and purposeful. The concept of remnant as both scientific phenomenon and supernatural force creates a bridge between the technological and mystical elements of FNAF lore. William Afton's experiments with remnant represent an attempt to apply scientific methodology to supernatural phenomena, to quantify and control forces that may be fundamentally beyond human understanding. His partial success in these experiments, his ability to transfer consciousness, preserve souls and achieve a form of immortality, suggests that the boundary between science and magic in the FNAF universe is more fluid than in our own reality. The mystery of the scooping room and its purpose in William Afton's experiments reveals the clinical, methodical nature of his approach to murder and consciousness manipulation. This underground facility, hidden beneath the cheerful facade of Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, represents the true heart of Afton's operation, a place where he could conduct his experiments away from public scrutiny. The scooper itself, designed to extract and inject remnant, transforms the act of murder into a mechanical process, reflecting Afton's dehumanization of his victims. The transformation of Michael Afton into a living corpse through his encounter with Ennard raises profound questions about the nature of life and death in the FNAF universe. Michael's ability to continue functioning despite being essentially dead challenges our understanding of what it means to be alive. His purple, rotting appearance in later games mirrors his father's sprite colour, creating visual parallels that suggest both men have been fundamentally changed by their encounters with the supernatural forces they've unleashed. The mystery of Elizabeth Afton's personality and motivations as Circus Baby reveals the complex psychology of a child who has been transformed by death and mechanical possession. Baby's behaviour suggests that Elizabeth retains her childlike desire for attention and affection, but these innocent needs have been twisted by her mechanical nature and the trauma of her death. Her manipulation of Michael and her role in the events of Sister Location demonstrate how innocence can be corrupted by the very forces that seek to preserve it. The concept of the Funtime animatronics as a family of killer robots reflects William Afton's twisted understanding of relationships and loyalty. These machines, designed to work together in capturing and killing children, represent a perversion of the family unit. They cooperate and support each other, but their shared purpose is murder rather than love or protection. The way they eventually fuse together to form Ennard suggests that their artificial bonds are strong enough to overcome individual identity, creating a collective consciousness driven by shared trauma and purpose. The mystery of the underground facility and sister location, and its relationship to the surface world, raises questions about the scope of William Afton's operations and the knowledge of other characters. How long had this facility been operating? Who else knew about its existence? The presence of an elevator system and the facility's apparent integration with the surface rental business suggest that Afton's crimes were not isolated incidents, but part of a larger, more systematic operation. The role of voice mimicry in the Funtime animatronics hunting strategies reflects William Afton's understanding of child psychology and his willingness to exploit the trust and innocence of his victims. The ability of these machines to imitate the voices of parents, friends, or authority figures represents the ultimate violation of the bonds that children rely on for safety and security. This technology transforms the animatronics from simple predators into sophisticated psychological manipulators. The mystery of the bidybabs and minarinas, the smaller animatronics that accompany the main Funtime characters, suggests that William Afton's experiments extended beyond the creation of individual killer robots to the development of entire ecosystems of mechanical predators. These smaller entities, with their childlike appearances and playful behaviours, represent the corruption of innocence on a smaller scale. They appear harmless and even cute, but they serve the same murderous purposes as their larger counterparts. The concept of the scooped state, where a person's internal organs have been removed and replaced with mechanical components, represents the ultimate fusion of human and machine in FNAF lore. Michael Afton's survival in this state suggests that Remnant can sustain consciousness even when the physical body has been fundamentally altered. This transformation raises questions about identity and continuity. Is the scooped Michael still the same person he was before, or has he become something entirely new? The mystery of the exotic butters, a seemingly innocent reward given to Michael at the end of Sister Location, has become one of FNAF's most beloved enigmas. This absurd detail appearing in the midst of a deeply disturbing story about murder and possession provides a moment of dark humour that highlights the surreal nature of the FNAF universe. The fact that such a mundane object has become a significant part of FNAF culture demonstrates how even the smallest details can take on meaning and importance in a mystery-driven narrative. The role of technology in facilitating and perpetuating the horrors of FNAF extends beyond the animatronics themselves to include the security systems, communication networks, and digital infrastructure that connect the various locations. The cameras that allow night guards to monitor the animatronics also serve as witnesses to their crimes, while the audio systems that play cheerful music during the day become conduits for supernatural communication at night. The integration of technology into every aspect of the pizzeria experience means that the corruption of these systems affects every level of the operation. The mystery of the phone guy's extensive knowledge about the pizzeria's systems and history suggests that he may have been more than just a helpful employee. His detailed understanding of the animatronics' behaviour patterns, his knowledge of past incidents, and his apparent acceptance of the dangers inherent in working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza imply that he may have been complicit in covering up the company's crimes. His eventual death at the hands of the animatronics might represent poetic justice for his role in perpetuating the cycle of violence. The concept of the custom night challenges in various FNAF games reflects the idea that the horror of the pizzeria can be customized and intensified according to the observer's fears and guilt. These gameplay modes, where players can adjust the difficulty and behaviour of individual animatronics, suggest that the supernatural forces at work in the pizzeria respond to the psychological state of those who encounter them. The more guilt, fear, or trauma a person carries, the more intense and personalised their experience of the haunting becomes. The mystery of ultimate custom, night and its relationship to William Afton's punishment in the afterlife, represents the franchise's exploration of justice and retribution. This game mode, where Afton is tormented by the spirits of his victims for eternity, suggests that some crimes are so heinous that they warrant infinite punishment. The one you should not have killed becomes the architect of Afton's eternal suffering, demonstrating that the desire for revenge can be as immortal as the evil that inspired it. The role of music and sound in FNAF mysteries extends beyond simple audio cues to encompass the emotional and psychological impact of the franchise's audio design. The music box melodies that calm the puppet, the distorted audio that accompanies supernatural events, and the silence that often precedes jump scares all contribute to the atmosphere of dread and uncertainty that defines the FNAF experience. The way sound is used to convey information, create tension, and suggest the presence of supernatural forces demonstrates the importance of audio in creating effective horror. The mystery of the various endings in FNAF games reflects the complex moral landscape of the franchise and the difficulty of achieving true resolution in the face of such profound evil. The good endings, where the children's souls are freed and find peace, often require significant sacrifice and loss. The bad endings, where the cycle of violence continues, suggest that some problems are too deeply rooted to be easily solved. The existence of multiple endings implies that the outcome of the FNAF story depends on the choices and actions of the characters involved, rather than being predetermined by fate. The concept of the Happiest Day as a collective healing experience emphasises the importance of community and shared support in overcoming trauma. The birthday party that brings together all the murdered children represents the idea that healing is not just an individual process, but a communal one. The fact that this resolution requires the participation of multiple characters, including some who are not direct victims of William Afton's crimes, suggests that the responsibility for healing and justice extends beyond those who were directly harmed. The mystery of the FNAF movie and its relationship to the game universe introduces questions about canon, adaptation, and the multiplicity of narratives within the FNAF franchise. The film's deviations from game lore, its focus on different characters and events, and its exploration of themes that are only hinted at in the games, suggest that the FNAF story exists in multiple versions, each with its own emphasis and interpretation. This multiplicity allows for different approaches to the same core themes and characters, enriching the overall narrative while also creating new mysteries and questions. The role of the fan community in shaping and interpreting FNAF mysteries represents a unique aspect of the franchise's development. Scott Cawthon's willingness to engage with fan theories, to incorporate community interpretations into subsequent games, and to acknowledge the collaborative nature of the storytelling process has created a dynamic relationship between creator and audience. This collaboration means that some FNAF mysteries have multiple correct answers, depending on which interpretation or version of the story is being considered. The mystery of the books and their relationship to the game universe adds another layer of complexity to FNAF lore. The novel trilogy, the Fazbear Frights anthology, and other written works explore themes and characters from the games, while also introducing new elements and interpretations. The books serve as both companion pieces to the games and independent explorations of the FNAF universe, creating a rich multimedia narrative that extends far beyond the original games. The concept of parallel universes or alternate timelines in FNAF lore suggests that some mysteries may not have single, definitive solutions. The differences between the game universe, book universe, and movie universe imply that the FNAF story exists in multiple versions, each exploring different aspects of the core themes and characters. This approach allows for creative freedom while also acknowledging that some questions may have multiple valid answers. The mystery of Agony as a supernatural force in FNAF lore, introduced primarily through the books, provides another explanation for the persistence of evil and trauma in the franchise. Agony, described as the emotional residue left behind by intense suffering, can apparently animate objects and create supernatural phenomena independent of human souls. This concept suggests that trauma itself can become a living force, perpetuating cycles of violence and horror even after the original victims and perpetrators are gone. The role of children as both victims and agents of resolution in FNAF mysteries reflects the franchise's exploration of innocence, corruption, and the resilience of the human spirit. The murdered children, despite their tragic fate, ultimately become the instruments of justice and healing in the FNAF universe. Their ability to find peace and move on, while also ensuring that their killer faces appropriate punishment, demonstrates that even the most profound trauma cannot completely destroy the capacity for growth, forgiveness, and resolution. The mystery of the mimic, introduced in recent FNAF lore, represents a new type of threat that combines artificial intelligence with the ability to learn and adapt from human behaviour. This entity, which can apparently copy and replicate the actions and personalities of those it observes, raises questions about the nature of identity and the dangers of creating machines that are too good at imitating human consciousness. The mimic's ability to learn from and replicate evil behaviour suggests that artificial intelligence, without proper moral guidance, can become a vehicle for perpetuating and amplifying human cruelty. The concept of the pizzaplex as a modern evolution of the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza concept reflects how evil can adapt and persist even as technology and society change. This massive entertainment complex, with its advanced animatronics and sophisticated security systems, represents William Afton's vision taken to its logical extreme, a place where children can be monitored, controlled, and potentially victimized on an unprecedented scale. The Pizzaplex's integration of modern technology with the classic FNAF formula demonstrates how the core themes of the franchise remain relevant, even as the specific details evolve. The mystery of Vanny and her relationship to both Vanessa and William Afton explores themes of identity, possession, and the corruption of innocence in the digital age. This character, who appears to be controlled by the glitch trap virus, represents a new form of possession that operates through technology rather than supernatural forces. The question of whether Vanny and Vanessa are the same person, and how much control each has over their shared body, reflects broader concerns about identity and agency in an increasingly connected world. The role of Gregory as a new protagonist in the FNAF saga raises questions about the cyclical nature of the franchise's themes and the possibility of breaking free from established patterns. This young boy, trapped in the Pizzaplex and pursued by corrupted animatronics, echoes the experiences of previous child characters in the series. However, his apparent ability to survive and potentially escape suggests that the cycle of victimization that has defined FNAF lore might finally be broken. The mystery of the blob, the massive amalgamation of animatronic parts that appears in Security Breach, represents the physical manifestation of the franchise's accumulated trauma and evil. This entity, composed of remnants from multiple previous games and characters, suggests that the past cannot be easily escaped or forgotten. The blob's existence implies that all the evil and suffering from the previous games has somehow coalesced into a single, massive threat that continues to haunt the present. The concept of the AR Special Delivery game and its integration of FNAF horror into the real world through augmented reality technology represents the ultimate blurring of the line between fiction and reality. This game, which allows players to encounter animatronics in their own homes through their phone cameras, suggests that the horror of FNAF can escape the confines of the pizzeria and invade any space. The use of AR technology to create this experience reflects how modern technology can be used to make fictional horror feel more immediate and personal. The mystery of the various Freddy variants and their individual personalities and motivations demonstrates the complexity of the FNAF universe, and the way that similar characters can develop in different directions based on their experiences and circumstances. From the original Freddy Fazbear to Golden Freddy to Molten Freddy to Glamrock Freddy, each version of this iconic character represents a different aspect of the franchise's themes and a different approach to the question of what it means to be both entertainer and potential threat. The role of birthday parties and celebrations as recurring motifs in FNAF lore reflects the franchise's exploration of childhood, innocence, and the corruption of joyful experiences. The fact that so many of the tragic events in FNAF occur in the context of what should be happy celebrations, birthday parties, family outings, entertainment venues, emphasizes the way that evil can infiltrate and corrupt even the most innocent and joyful aspects of human experience. The mystery of the various security systems and their effectiveness, or lack thereof, in protecting people from the animatronics raises questions about the nature of safety and security in the FNAF universe. The doors, lights, cameras, and other defensive measures available to night guards often prove inadequate against supernatural threats, suggesting that conventional security measures are insufficient when dealing with forces that operate beyond the normal rules of physics and logic. The concept of the Fazbear Frights as both a horror attraction and a metaphor for the commercialization of tragedy reflects real-world concerns about how traumatic events can be exploited for entertainment and profit. The idea of turning the site of multiple murders into a tourist attraction demonstrates the way that society can become desensitized to horror and tragedy, treating real suffering as entertainment. The fact that this attraction ultimately burns down, taking William Afton with it, suggests that some attempts to profit from tragedy will ultimately be consumed by the very forces they seek to exploit. The mystery of the various cover-up attempts and corporate conspiracies throughout FNAF lore reflects broader themes about institutional corruption and the protection of profits over people. The repeated attempts by Fazbear Entertainment to hide evidence, silence witnesses, and continue operating despite obvious dangers demonstrate how powerful organizations can perpetuate harm through willful ignorance and deliberate deception. The fact that these cover-ups ultimately fail, and that the truth eventually comes to light, suggests that justice, while delayed, is not denied. The role of memory and forgetting in FNAF Mysteries explores how trauma can be both preserved and suppressed, how the past can be both remembered and forgotten, the animatronics' retention of memories from their human lives, the attempts by various characters to forget or suppress traumatic experiences, and the way that hidden truths eventually surface, all reflect the complex relationship between memory and healing. The franchise suggests that while forgetting trauma might provide temporary relief, true healing requires confronting and processing difficult memories. The mystery of the various phone calls and audio logs throughout the FNAF series serves as a form of oral history, preserving the voices and perspectives of those who witnessed or participated in the tragic events. These recordings, often discovered years after they were made, provide crucial information about past events, while also serving as memorials to those who died. The fact that these voices persist long after their speakers are gone reflects the way that truth and testimony can survive, even when those who bear witness do not. The concept of the Ultimate Guide and other official FNAF materials as sources of canonical information raises questions about authority, interpretation, and the nature of truth in fictional universes. These official sources sometimes contradict information from the games themselves, creating confusion about what should be considered true within the FNAF universe. This ambiguity reflects the complex relationship between creator intent, community interpretation, and the evolution of fictional narratives over time. The mystery of the various Easter eggs and hidden details throughout the FNAF games demonstrates the importance of careful observation and analysis in understanding the franchise's deeper meanings. These hidden elements, from secret screens to background details to coded messages, reward players who take the time to look beyond the surface level of the games. The fact that some of these Easter eggs have never been fully explained or understood suggests that the FNAF universe contains depths that have yet to be fully explored. The role of technology in both creating and solving FNAF mysteries reflects the double-edged nature of technological advancement. While technology enables William Afton's crimes and allows for the creation of increasingly sophisticated killing machines, it also provides the tools necessary for uncovering the truth and ultimately stopping the cycle of violence. The use of security cameras, audio recordings, and digital analysis to piece together the FNAF timeline demonstrates how technology can serve both destructive and constructive purposes. The mystery of the various time loops and temporal anomalies in FNAF lore suggests that the supernatural forces at work in the franchise operate according to different rules than normal causality. The way that past events seem to influence present circumstances, the apparent ability of some characters to experience events out of sequence, and the cyclical nature of many FNAF narratives all point to a universe where time itself has been distorted by trauma and supernatural intervention. The concept of the Fazbear Entertainment Corporation as both a business entity and a symbol of institutional evil reflects broader concerns about corporate responsibility and the way that organisations can perpetuate harm while maintaining a facade of respectability. The company's ability to survive multiple scandals, rebrand itself repeatedly, and continue attracting customers despite its obvious dangers demonstrates the power of marketing, nostalgia, and willful ignorance in allowing harmful institutions to persist. The mystery of the various alternate reality games, ARGs, and promotional materials associated with FNAF demonstrates how the franchise has expanded beyond traditional gaming into new forms of interactive storytelling. These ARGs, which often require community collaboration to solve, reflect the way that FNAF has become a participatory narrative where fans play an active role in uncovering and interpreting the story. The use of real-world websites, phone numbers, and other elements to create immersive experiences shows how fictional narratives can spill over into reality. The role of dreams and nightmares in FNAF lore raises questions about the nature of reality and the power of the subconscious mind to process trauma. The nightmare sequences in FNAF 4, the dreamlike quality of many mini-games, and the way that traumatic memories seem to manifest as supernatural experiences all suggest that the boundary between waking and sleeping, between reality and imagination, is more fluid in the FNAF universe than in our own world. The mystery of the various what-if scenarios and alternate endings in FNAF games reflects the franchise's exploration of choice, consequence, and the possibility of different outcomes based on different decisions. These alternate scenarios suggest that the tragic events of FNAF were not inevitable, that different choices by key characters could have led to different outcomes. This emphasis on choice and consequence reinforces the moral dimensions of the FNAF story and the importance of individual responsibility in preventing or perpetuating evil. The concept of the Freddy files and other in-universe documents as sources of information about the FNAF world demonstrates how fictional universes can develop their own internal systems of knowledge and documentation. These materials, which exist within the FNAF universe itself, provide a different perspective on events than what players experience directly through the games. The fact that these documents sometimes contradict or expand upon information from the games suggests that truth in the FNAF universe, as in the real world, is often complex and multifaceted. The mystery of the various fan theories and their influence on the official FNAF narrative reflects the unique relationship between creator and community that has developed around the franchise. Scott Cawthon's acknowledgement that fan theories have sometimes influenced the direction of the games creates a collaborative storytelling environment where the community plays an active role in shaping the narrative. This approach means that some FNAF mysteries exist in a state of quantum superposition, where multiple interpretations can be simultaneously true until officially resolved. The role of guilt and redemption as driving forces in FNAF lore reflects the franchise's exploration of moral responsibility and the possibility of atonement for past wrongs. Characters like Michael Afton and Henry Emily are motivated by their desire to make amends for their roles in past tragedies, while William Afton's refusal to accept responsibility for his crimes condemns him to eternal punishment. The franchise suggests that redemption is possible for those who genuinely seek it, but that it requires acknowledgement of wrongdoing and a willingness to sacrifice for others. The mystery of the various supernatural phenomena in FNAF, from possession to time distortion to digital consciousness, challenges our understanding of the natural world and suggests that reality itself can be altered by intense emotion and trauma. The franchise's supernatural elements are not arbitrary, but are consistently linked to human suffering and the desire for justice or revenge. This connection between emotion and supernatural power suggests that the FNAF universe operates according to moral as well as physical laws. The concept of the pizzaplex as a modern evolution of the classic pizzeria concept reflects how evil can adapt and persist even as society and technology change. This massive entertainment complex, with its advanced animatronics and sophisticated security systems, represents the logical endpoint of William Afton's vision, a place where children can be monitored, controlled, and potentially victimized on an unprecedented scale. The Pizzaplex's combination of cutting-edge technology with familiar FNAF themes demonstrates how the franchise's core concerns remain relevant, even as the specific details evolve. As you drift into the deeper stages of sleep, let these intricate mysteries of Five Nights at Freddy's settle into your consciousness like pieces of an infinite puzzle. Each question leads to new questions, each answer reveals new depths of complexity, and each revelation opens new avenues for exploration and understanding. The FNAF universe is not just a collection of horror games, but a meditation on the nature of evil, the power of redemption, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable trauma. The enduring appeal of these mysteries lies not just in their complexity, but in their emotional resonance and their exploration of fundamental human concerns. The questions that drive FNAF about the nature of consciousness, the possibility of redemption, the persistence of evil, and the power of love to overcome hatred are questions that have occupied human minds for millennia. By grounding these eternal questions in the specific context of haunted animatronics and supernatural horror, the FNAF franchise makes abstract philosophical concepts concrete and immediate. Rest peacefully now, knowing that even the darkest mysteries serve a purpose in helping us understand ourselves and our world. The children of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, trapped in their mechanical prisons, remind us of the importance of protecting the innocent and seeking justice for those who cannot seek it for themselves. Their struggle for peace and resolution reflects our own struggles with trauma, loss, and the search for meaning in the face of suffering. The mysteries of FNAF teach us that truth, however hidden or complex, will eventually come to light. They show us that evil, however persistent or powerful, cannot ultimately triumph over love, justice, and the human capacity for growth and redemption. They remind us that even in the darkest corners of the most haunted pizzeria, there is always the possibility of understanding, of healing, of peace. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled not with the horror of unanswered questions, but with the hope that all mysteries, no matter how dark or complex, can eventually find their resolution. The spirits that haunt the FNAF universe seek not to frighten, but to be understood, not to harm, but to find peace. In understanding their mysteries, we come to understand something profound about the nature of justice, redemption, and the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome even the greatest darkness. Good night, and remember that every mystery, no matter how complex, is ultimately a story about people, their hopes, their fears, their mistakes, and their search for meaning and connection. The animatronics may be mechanical, but the souls that inhabit them are profoundly human, and their stories remind us of our shared humanity and our responsibility to protect and care for one another. Sweet dreams, and may you wake tomorrow with a deeper appreciation for the mysteries that challenge us, the truths that guide us, and the hope that sustains us through even the darkest nights. The children of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza have found their peace at last, and in their resolution, we find our own hope for healing, understanding, and the triumph of light over darkness. As the night deepens around you and your consciousness drifts between waking and sleeping, let us venture even further into the labyrinthine depths of 5 Nights at Freddy's Mysteries. There are still countless secrets to uncover, connections to explore, and profound questions that touch the very essence of what it means to be human in a world where the boundaries between life and death, reality and nightmare have been forever blurred. The mystery of the original Fredbear's family diner and its significance as the birthplace of both wonder and horror in the FNAF universe deserves deeper exploration. This humble establishment, co-founded by Henry Emily and William Afton in what seemed like a partnership born of shared dreams and innocent ambitions, represents the moment when 2 very different visions of childhood entertainment began to diverge. Henry's vision was one of genuine joy and wonder, creating magical experiences that would bring families together and give children memories to treasure for a lifetime. William's vision, even from the beginning, may have contained the seeds of something darker. The Springlock technology that defined the early days of Fredbear's represents a perfect metaphor for the duality that would come to define the entire FNAF saga. These ingenious mechanisms allowed the same costume to function as both an autonomous animatronic entertainer and a wearable suit for human performers. On the surface, this technology represented the pinnacle of entertainment innovation, the ability to seamlessly blend human performance with mechanical precision. But beneath this veneer of technological marvel lay a deadly trap, a mechanism so dangerous that the slightest mistake could result in horrific death. The Springlock failures that plagued the early days of Fazbear Entertainment were not mere accidents, but harbingers of the greater tragedies to come. Each failure, each injury, each near-death experience should have served as a warning that the technology was fundamentally flawed. Yet the company continued to use these dangerous suits, prioritizing profit and spectacle over the safety of their employees. This pattern of willful negligence and the prioritization of business interests over human welfare would become a defining characteristic of Fazbear Entertainment throughout its dark history. The mystery of the first Springlock failure and its impact on William Afton's psychological development opens up questions about the relationship between trauma and evil. Did witnessing or experiencing a Springlock failure contribute to Afton's descent into madness? Did the sight of a human being crushed and impaled by mechanical components plant the seed of his later obsession with the boundaries between flesh and metal, life and death? The Springlock suits, with their ability to transform from protective costume to deadly trap in an instant, may have provided Afton with his first glimpse into the possibility of using technology to control and manipulate the human form. The role of the Bite of 83 as the catalyst for everything that followed cannot be overstated. This tragic event where William Afton's younger son was killed by the very animatronic that bore his father's creative vision represents the moment when the FNAF universe's trajectory toward horror became inevitable. The crying child's death was not just a personal tragedy for the Afton family, but a cosmic wound that would never fully heal, a trauma so profound that it would echo through generations and across multiple realities. The psychological impact of losing a child in such a public and horrific manner would be devastating for any parent, but for William Afton, it seems to have triggered a complete break from reality and morality. The guilt, rage and desperation that followed his son's death may have convinced him that death was not permanent, that consciousness could be preserved and transferred. that the natural order of life and death could be overcome through technology and will. This delusion would drive him to commit increasingly heinous acts in pursuit of an impossible goal, bringing back his son by mastering the forces of life and death themselves. The mystery of the crying child's final words and their significance in the larger FNAF narrative reveals the profound impact that a child's forgiveness can have even in the face of unimaginable tragedy. "I will put you back together," the mysterious voice promises the dying child, and this promise becomes a central theme throughout the entire franchise. But who speaks these words, and what do they truly mean? Some theories suggest that Henry Emily, racked with guilt over his role in creating the technology that killed his partner's son, makes this promise. Others propose that it is William Afton himself, vowing to find a way to resurrect his child through his experiments with remnant and consciousness transfer. The concept of putting someone back together takes on multiple meanings throughout the FNAF saga. On a literal level, it refers to the physical reconstruction of damaged bodies and minds. On a metaphorical level, it represents the healing of trauma, the restoration of broken families, and the redemption of souls lost to darkness. The fact that this promise is made to a dying child and becomes a driving force for so many characters throughout the series demonstrates the power of love and hope to persist even in the darkest circumstances. The mystery of the Fredbear plush and its apparent consciousness raises questions about the nature of inanimate objects in the FNAF universe and their ability to serve as conduits for supernatural communication. This simple toy, which seems to offer comfort and guidance to the crying child, displays knowledge and awareness that no ordinary plush should possess. Its ability to appear in different locations, its seemingly prophetic knowledge of future events, and its role as a bridge between the living and the dead suggest that it may be possessed by a benevolent spirit, perhaps Charlotte Emily, seeking to protect other children from the fate that befell her. The relationship between the crying child and his plushies reflects the way that children often invest inanimate objects with emotional significance and even personality. In the FNAF universe, where the boundary between the animate and inanimate is constantly blurred, these childhood attachments take on supernatural dimensions. The plushies become not just comfort objects, but actual sources of protection and guidance, demonstrating how love and emotional connection can transcend the physical limitations of the material world. The mystery of the hospital room and its connection to the FNAF 4 gameplay raises questions about the nature of the nightmares and their relationship to reality. The presence of medical equipment, flowers, and pills in what appears to be the crying child's bedroom suggests that the events of FNAF 4 may be taking place in a hospital setting, where the child lies dying or recovering from his injuries. This interpretation transforms the nightmare animatronics from simple products of fear into manifestations of the child's trauma and his struggle between life and death. The concept of the nightmares as a form of purgatory or liminal space between life and death adds another layer of meaning to FNAF 4. If the crying child is indeed dying, or in a coma following the bite of 83, then the nightmare sequences may represent his consciousness's attempt to process the trauma he has experienced. The twisted, horrifying versions of the animatronics that once brought him joy now serve as symbols of his fear, pain, and confusion as he struggles to understand what has happened to him. The role of Michael Afton as both perpetrator and victim in the FNAF saga creates one of the most complex character arcs in the entire franchise. As the older brother who caused his sibling's death through a cruel prank, Michael carries the weight of tremendous guilt and responsibility, yet he is also a victim of his father's madness and his family's dysfunction, forced to confront the consequences of actions he committed as a child. His journey from thoughtless bully to determined hero represents the possibility of redemption and growth, even for those who have caused great harm. Michael's decision to seek out his father and attempt to undo the damage that has been done demonstrates the power of guilt to motivate positive action. Rather than being paralyzed by his remorse, Michael chooses to take active steps to make amends for his past mistakes. His willingness to work at dangerous locations, to confront possessed animatronics, and ultimately to sacrifice his own life for the greater good shows how genuine remorse can be transformed into heroic action. The mystery of Michael's survival after being scooped by Ennard raises profound questions about the nature of life and death in the FNAF universe. His ability to continue functioning despite being essentially dead challenges our understanding of what it means to be alive. The remnant in his system, presumably inherited from his father's experiments or absorbed through his encounters with possessed animatronics, keeps his consciousness intact even as his body decays. This transformation makes him a living bridge between the world of the living and the realm of the dead, uniquely qualified to understand and communicate with both. The visual parallel between Michael's purple, rotting appearance and his father's purple sprite creates a powerful symbolic connection between the two characters. Both men have been fundamentally changed by their encounters with the supernatural forces they have unleashed. Both exist in a state between life and death, and both are driven by obsessions that consume their humanity. Yet while William's obsession leads him deeper into evil and madness, Michael's obsession with redemption leads him toward heroism and sacrifice. The mystery of Elizabeth Afton and her transformation into Circus Baby reveals the tragic irony of a child being killed by a machine designed by her own father. Elizabeth's fascination with Baby, despite her father's warnings to stay away, reflects the natural curiosity and trust that children have toward the adults in their lives. Her death represents the ultimate betrayal of that trust. She is killed not by a stranger or an accident, but by a machine created by the person who should have protected her above all others. Circus Baby's retention of Elizabeth's personality and memories creates a unique form of possession that differs from the other animatronics in the series. While the other possessed characters seem to be driven primarily by anger and the desire for revenge, Baby displays a more complex emotional range that includes love, manipulation, and a desperate desire for attention and affection. Her relationship with her father is complicated by the fact that she is both his victim and his creation, both his daughter and his monster. The concept of the Funtime animatronics as a family of killer robots reflects William Afton's twisted understanding of relationships and loyalty. These machines, designed to work together in capturing and killing children, represent a perversion of the family unit. They cooperate and support each other, but their shared purpose is murder rather than love or protection. The way they eventually fuse together to form Ennard suggests that their artificial bonds are strong enough to overcome individual identity, creating a collective consciousness driven by shared trauma and purpose. The underground facility and sister location represents the hidden heart of William Afton's operation, a place where his true nature and intentions are finally revealed. This sterile clinical environment, hidden beneath the cheerful facade of a rental business, demonstrates the calculated and methodical nature of Afton's crimes. The facility's advanced technology, its sophisticated security systems, and its purpose-built killing machines show that Afton's evil is not the product of madness or impulse, but of careful planning and deliberate design. The mystery of the rental business and its legitimate customers raises disturbing questions about the scope of William Afton's influence and the complicity of others in his crimes. Who rented these obviously dangerous animatronics? What events were they used for? Did the customers know about the machine's true purpose, or were they unwitting participants in Afton's schemes? The existence of a legitimate business front for his illegal activities suggests that Afton's network of corruption and complicity extended far beyond his immediate family and business partners. The role of Hand Unit, the artificial intelligence that guides players through Sister Location, represents another example of how technology in the FNAF universe can be both helpful and sinister. This cheerful, seemingly benign AI provides instructions and information that are essential for survival, yet it also serves William Afton's purposes by guiding visitors deeper into his trap. Hand Unit's casual attitude toward obviously dangerous situations and its programmed responses to player concerns reflect the way that institutional systems can normalize and facilitate evil through bureaucratic indifference. The concept of the scooping process as both a literal and metaphorical transformation reveals the depth of William Afton's understanding of human psychology and his willingness to exploit the bonds between family members. By using Michael as an unwitting agent in his schemes, Afton demonstrates his ability to manipulate even those closest to him. The scooping represents not just a physical violation, but an emotional and spiritual one, transforming Michael from son to tool, from human to vessel. The mystery of Ennard's motivations and its relationship to the individual Funtime animatronics raises questions about collective consciousness and individual identity. When the Funtime animatronics fuse together to form Ennard, do they retain their individual personalities and memories, or do they become something entirely new? The entity's behaviour suggests a complex blend of different consciousnesses, with Elizabeth's personality seeming to dominate but not completely subsume the others. The eventual separation of Ennard into its component parts, with Elizabeth's spirit taking control of Circus Baby, while the others form Molten Freddy, suggests that individual identity is stronger than collective consciousness in the FNAF universe. Even when forced together by circumstance and necessity, the different spirits eventually reassert their individual natures and purposes. This separation may represent the idea that true unity cannot be forced but must be chosen freely by willing participants. The mystery of the pizzeria simulator location and its true purpose as a trap reveals Henry Emily's evolution from passive victim to active agent of justice. This elaborate scheme, designed to lure all the possessed animatronics into one location for final destruction, represents Henry's attempt to take responsibility for his role in creating the technology that enabled William Afton's crimes. The fake pizzeria serves as both a memorial to the victims and a funeral pyre for their tormentors. Henry's final speech, delivered as the pizzeria burns around him, represents one of the most emotionally powerful moments in the entire FNAF saga. His acknowledgement of his own guilt, his expression of love and regret for his daughter Charlotte, and his determination to end the cycle of violence demonstrate the possibility of redemption through sacrifice. Henry's willingness to die alongside the monsters he helped create shows that true atonement sometimes requires the ultimate price. The concept of the pizzeria simulator fire as a purification ritual reflects ancient beliefs about the cleansing power of flame. Fire has long been associated with purification, transformation, and the destruction of evil in human cultures around the world. Henry's use of fire to destroy the possessed animatronics and free the trapped souls draws on these deep cultural associations, suggesting that some forms of evil can only be cleansed through complete destruction. The mystery of William Afton's survival and transformation into Glitchtrap reveals the persistent nature of evil and its ability to adapt to new circumstances and technologies. Afton's consciousness, preserved in the circuit boards of the old animatronics and inadvertently digitized by Fazbear Entertainment, demonstrates that evil can transcend physical destruction and find new forms of expression. The digital realm, rather than providing escape from the horrors of the physical world, becomes a new battleground where the same conflicts play out in virtual space. The concept of Glitchtrap as a computer virus that can possess human minds through virtual reality technology reflects contemporary fears about the power of digital technology to influence and control human behaviour. This new form of possession, operating through screens and headsets rather than physical contact, suggests that the boundaries between the digital and physical worlds are becoming increasingly blurred. Glitchtrap's ability to spread like a virus from person to person through technology makes him potentially more dangerous than any of his previous incarnations. The character of Vanny and her relationship to both Vanessa and William Afton explores themes of identity, free will, and the corruption of innocence in the digital age. This young woman, apparently possessed or controlled by the Glitchtrap virus, represents a new generation of victims in Afton's ongoing campaign of terror. Her transformation from normal person to willing accomplice in murder demonstrates the insidious nature of digital manipulation and the way that technology can be used to corrupt and control human behaviour. The mystery of whether Vanny and Vanessa are the same person or separate entities reflects broader questions about identity and consciousness in an age of digital manipulation. If Glitchtrap can alter someone's personality and behaviour so completely that they become a different person, what does that mean for concepts of individual responsibility and moral agency? The question of how much control Vanessa has over her actions when she becomes Vanny touches on fundamental issues of free will and determinism. The security breach pizzaplex represents the ultimate evolution of William Afton's vision, a massive entertainment complex where children can be monitored, controlled, and potentially victimized on an unprecedented scale. This high-tech facility, with its advanced animatronics, sophisticated security systems and maze-like layout, demonstrates how evil can adapt and persist even as technology and society change. The Pizzaplex's combination of cutting-edge technology with familiar FNAF themes shows how the franchise's core concerns remain relevant, even as the specific details evolve. The glamrock animatronics of Security Breach present a new mystery about the nature of possession and consciousness in the FNAF universe. These advanced machines, with their sophisticated AI and lifelike behaviour, blur the line between artificial intelligence and supernatural possession. Their corruption by outside forces and their eventual turn toward violence suggest that even the most advanced technology cannot escape the influence of the evil that permeates the FNAF universe. The character of Gregory and his role as the protagonist of Security Breach raises questions about the cyclical nature of the FNAF saga and the possibility of breaking free from established patterns. This young boy, trapped in the Pizzaplex overnight and pursued by corrupted animatronics, echoes the experiences of previous child characters in the series. However, his apparent ability to survive and potentially escape suggests that the cycle of victimization that has defined FNAF lore might finally be broken. The mystery of Gregory's true identity and his connection to the larger FNAF story has spawned numerous theories and speculations. Some fans suggest that he might be a robot or artificial being, created by someone seeking to break the cycle of violence. Others propose that he represents a new generation of children who are better equipped to deal with the supernatural threats that have plagued previous generations. His knowledge of the Pizzaplex's systems and his ability to survive in such a dangerous environment suggest that he is more than just an ordinary child. The Blob, the massive amalgamation of animatronic parts that lurks beneath the Pizzaplex, represents the physical manifestation of the franchise's accumulated trauma and evil. This entity, composed of remnants from multiple previous games and characters, suggests that the past cannot be easily escaped or forgotten. The Blob's existence implies that all the evil and suffering from the previous games has somehow coalesced into a single, massive threat that continues to haunt the present. The concept of the Blob as a collective entity formed from the remnants of multiple possessed animatronics raises questions about the nature of consciousness and identity after death. Do the individual spirits that make up the Blob retain their separate identities, or have they merged into something entirely new? The entity's behaviour suggests a complex blend of different consciousnesses, each contributing their own memories, emotions and motivations to the collective whole. The mystery of the various endings in Security Breach and their implications for the future of the FNAF saga reflects the complex moral landscape of the franchise. The different possible outcomes for Gregory, Vanessa and the other characters suggest that the story's resolution depends on the choices made by the protagonists. Some endings offer hope for redemption and healing, while others suggest that the cycle of violence and corruption will continue into the future. The role of Freddy Fazbear himself as a protective figure in Security Breach represents a significant departure from his traditional role as a threat. This version of the iconic character, apparently free from the corruption that affects the other glamrock animatronics, serves as Gregory's ally and protector. His willingness to help a child in danger, even at the cost of his own safety, suggests that the capacity for good exists even within the machines that have been associated with so much evil. The mystery of why Glamrock Freddy remains uncorrupted while the other animatronics succumb to outside influence raises questions about the nature of good and evil in the FNAF universe. Does Freddy possess some special quality that makes him resistant to corruption? Or is his protection of Gregory the result of a conscious choice to resist evil? His behaviour suggests that even artificial beings can make moral choices, and that the capacity for good is not limited to biological consciousness. The concept of the AR special delivery game and its integration of FNAF horror into the real world through augmented reality technology represents the ultimate blurring of the line between fiction and reality. This game, which allows players to encounter animatronics in their own homes through their phone cameras, suggests that the horror of FNAF can escape the confines of the pizzeria and invade any space. The use of AR technology to create this experience reflects how modern technology can be used to make fictional horror feel more immediate and personal. The mystery of the various Freddy variants throughout the franchise and their individual personalities and motivations demonstrates the complexity of the FNAF universe, and the way that similar characters can develop in different directions based on their experiences and circumstances. From the original Freddy Fazbear to Golden Freddy to Molten Freddy to Glamrock Freddy, each version of this iconic character represents a different aspect of the franchise's themes, and a different approach to the question of what it means to be both entertainer and potential threat. The role of music and performance in the FNAF universe extends beyond simple entertainment to encompass themes of memory, identity, and the preservation of consciousness after death. The animatronic songs and performances serve as links to their original purpose as entertainers, reminders of the joy and wonder they were meant to bring to children's lives. Even when corrupted by supernatural forces, they retain fragments of their original programming, suggesting that the capacity for beauty and art persists even in the darkest circumstances. The mystery of the various music boxes and their significance in FNAF lore reflects the power of music to soothe, control, and communicate across the boundaries between life and death. The puppet's music box, which must be wound to keep the entity calm, suggests that music has the power to maintain order and prevent chaos. The various melodies associated with different animatronics serve as their signatures, unique identifiers that persist even when their physical forms are destroyed or transformed. The concept of the Happiest Day as both a specific mini-game and a broader metaphor for healing and resolution demonstrates the importance of joy and celebration in overcoming trauma. The birthday party that the crying child never got to enjoy becomes a symbol of restoration and completion, a way for all the murdered children to find the happiness that was stolen from them. The fact that this resolution requires the cooperation and sacrifice of multiple characters suggests that healing from trauma is often a collective effort, rather than an individual journey. The mystery of the golden suits and their special significance in FNAF lore reflects the way that certain objects can become focal points for supernatural activity. Golden Freddy, Fredbear, and Spring Bonnie all possess unique properties that set them apart from the other animatronics. Their golden colour may represent their special status as the original characters, the first to be possessed, or the most powerful in terms of supernatural ability. The fact that William Afton becomes trapped in a golden suit suggests that these objects serve as both prisons and sources of power. The role of the security office as both sanctuary and trap throughout the FNAF series reflects the ambiguous nature of safety and security in the franchise. These small rooms, equipped with doors, lights and cameras, provide the player with tools for survival while also serving as the stage for their potential demise. The office becomes a microcosm of the larger FNAF universe, a place where technology and human ingenuity struggle against supernatural forces and ancient evil. The mystery of the various phone calls and their relationship to time and causality in the FNAF universe raises questions about the nature of communication across temporal boundaries. Some of the phone messages seem to be recorded in the past but contain information about future events, while others appear to be live communications that somehow transcend the normal limitations of time and space. These temporal anomalies suggest that the supernatural forces at work in FNAF operate according to different rules than normal causality. The concept of the one you should not have killed as the ultimate expression of righteous anger and the refusal to forgive represents the dark side of justice and the danger of allowing hatred to consume one's soul. This vengeful spirit, likely Cassidy possessing Golden Freddy, demonstrates that while forgiveness and redemption are possible, they are not inevitable. Some wrongs are so profound that they create wounds that never heal, hatred that never dies, and a thirst for revenge that transcends death itself. The mystery of ultimate custom, Night and its relationship to William Afton's punishment in the afterlife suggests that the FNAF universe operates according to moral as well as physical laws. Afton's eternal torment at the hands of his victims represents a form of cosmic justice, where the evil that one does in life returns to haunt them after death. The fact that this punishment takes the form of an endless nightmare, where Afton must face the consequences of his actions over and over again, suggests that true justice involves not just punishment but understanding and acknowledgement of wrongdoing. The role of the fan community in shaping and interpreting FNAF mysteries represents a unique aspect of the franchise's development and evolution. Scott Cawthon's willingness to engage with fan theories, to incorporate community interpretations into subsequent games, and to acknowledge the collaborative nature of the storytelling process, has created a dynamic relationship between creator and audience. This collaboration means that some FNAF mysteries have multiple correct answers, depending on which interpretation or version of the story is being considered. The mystery of the books and their relationship to the game universe adds another layer of complexity to FNAF lore while also providing additional perspectives on familiar themes and characters. The novel trilogy, the Fazbear Frights anthology, and other written works explore concepts like agony, remnant, and the persistence of consciousness after death in ways that complement and expand upon the game's narratives. These books serve as both companion pieces to the games and independent explorations of the FNAF universe's philosophical and supernatural elements. The concept of parallel universes or alternate timelines in FNAF lore suggests that the franchise's mysteries may not have single, definitive solutions, but rather multiple valid interpretations that coexist across different versions of reality. The differences between the game universe, book universe, and movie universe imply that the FNAF story exists in multiple forms, each exploring different aspects of the core themes and characters. This multiplicity allows for creative freedom while also acknowledging that some questions may have multiple valid answers. The mystery of agony as a supernatural force, introduced primarily through the books, provides another explanation for the persistence of evil and trauma in the FNAF universe. Agony, described as the emotional residue left behind by intense suffering, can apparently animate objects and create supernatural phenomena independent of human souls. This concept suggests that trauma itself can become a living force, perpetuating cycles of violence and horror even after the original victims and perpetrators are gone. The role of technology as both a tool for good and a weapon for evil throughout the FNAF saga reflects broader concerns about the moral neutrality of technological advancement. The same innovations that allow for the creation of entertaining animatronics also enable the development of sophisticated killing machines. The same digital networks that connect people across vast distances also provide pathways for malevolent entities to spread their influence. The franchise suggests that technology itself is neither good nor evil, but that its moral impact depends entirely on how it is used and by whom. The mystery of the mimic and its role in recent FNAF lore represents a new type of threat that combines artificial intelligence with the ability to learn and adapt from human behaviour. This entity, which can apparently copy and replicate the actions and personalities of those it observes, raises questions about the nature of identity and the dangers of creating machines that are too good at imitating human consciousness. The mimic's ability to learn from and replicate evil behaviour suggests that artificial intelligence, without proper moral guidance, can become a vehicle for perpetuating and amplifying human cruelty. The concept of the various cover-up attempts and corporate conspiracies throughout FNAF lore reflects real-world concerns about institutional corruption and the protection of profits over people. The repeated attempts by Fazbear Entertainment to hide evidence, silence witnesses, and continue operating despite obvious dangers demonstrate how powerful organisations can perpetuate harm through willful ignorance and deliberate deception. The fact that these cover-ups ultimately fail, and that the truth eventually comes to light, suggests that justice, while delayed, is not denied. The mystery of the various time loops and temporal anomalies in FNAF lore suggests that the supernatural forces at work in the franchise operate according to different rules than normal causality. The way that past events seem to influence present circumstances, the apparent ability of some characters to experience events out of sequence, and the cyclical nature of many FNAF narratives all point to a universe where time itself has been distorted by trauma and supernatural intervention. The role of memory and forgetting in FNAF mysteries explores how trauma can be both preserved and suppressed, how the past can be both remembered and forgotten. The animatronics' retention of memories from their human lives, the attempts by various characters to forget or suppress traumatic experiences, and the way that hidden truths eventually surface all reflect the complex relationship between memory and healing. The franchise suggests that while forgetting trauma might provide temporary relief, true healing requires confronting and processing difficult memories. The mystery of the various Easter eggs and hidden details throughout the FNAF games demonstrates the importance of careful observation and analysis in understanding the franchise's deeper meanings. These hidden elements, from secret screens to background details to coded messages, reward players who take the time to look beyond the surface level of the games. The fact that some of these Easter eggs have never been fully explained or understood suggests that the FNAF universe contains depths that have yet to be fully explored. The concept of the Fazbear Entertainment Corporation as both a business entity and a symbol of institutional evil reflects broader concerns about corporate responsibility and the way that organisations can perpetuate harm while maintaining a facade of respectability. The company's ability to survive multiple scandals, rebrand itself repeatedly, and continue attracting customers despite its obvious dangers demonstrates the power of marketing, nostalgia, and willful ignorance in allowing harmful institutions to persist. The mystery of the various alternate reality games, ARGs, and promotional materials associated with FNAF demonstrates how the franchise has expanded beyond traditional gaming into new forms of interactive storytelling. These ARGs, which often require community collaboration to solve, reflect the way that FNAF has become a participatory narrative where fans play an active role in uncovering and interpreting the story. The use of real-world websites, phone numbers, and other elements to create immersive experiences shows how fictional narratives can spill over into reality. The role of dreams and nightmares in FNAF lore raises questions about the nature of reality and the power of the subconscious mind to process trauma. The nightmare sequences in FNAF 4 the dreamlike quality of many mini-games, and the way that traumatic memories seem to manifest as supernatural experiences all suggest that the boundary between waking and sleeping, between reality and imagination, is more fluid in the FNAF universe than in our own world. As you drift into the deepest realms of sleep, let these countless mysteries of Five Nights at Freddy's wash over you like waves of understanding and wonder. Each question we have explored tonight represents not just a puzzle to be solved, but a window into the human condition, a reflection of our deepest fears and highest hopes, our capacity for both great evil and profound redemption. The enduring power of FNAF mysteries lies not in their complexity alone, but in their ability to make us think about fundamental questions of existence, morality, and the nature of consciousness itself. Through the lens of haunted animatronics and supernatural horror, the franchise explores themes that have occupied human minds for millennia. The meaning of life and death, the possibility of redemption, the persistence of love in the face of hatred, and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. Rest peacefully now, knowing that even the darkest mysteries serve a purpose in helping us understand ourselves and our world. The children of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, in their struggle for peace and justice, remind us of the importance of protecting the innocent, seeking truth, and never giving up hope for healing and redemption. Their stories, complex and sometimes contradictory as they may be, ultimately point toward the same fundamental truth, that love is stronger than hatred, that light can overcome darkness, and that even the most broken souls can find peace. The mysteries we have explored tonight will continue to evolve and deepen as new games, books, and other media expand the FNAF universe. But the core themes and questions that drive these mysteries about the nature of good and evil, the power of choice and consequence, the possibility of redemption and healing, will remain constant. These are the eternal questions that make FNAF more than just a horror franchise, but a profound meditation on what it means to be human. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled not with the terror of unanswered questions, but with the peace that comes from understanding. The spirits that haunt the FNAF universe have found their rest at last, and in their resolution, we find our own hope for healing, forgiveness, and the ultimate triumph of love over fear. Good night, and remember that every mystery, no matter how dark or complex, is ultimately a story about the human heart, its capacity for both great evil and profound good, its ability to endure unimaginable suffering and still choose hope, its power to transform even the darkest tragedy into a source of wisdom and compassion. Sweet dreams, and may you wake tomorrow with a deeper appreciation for the mysteries that challenge us, the truths that guide us, and the love that sustains us through even the longest and darkest nights. The children of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza have taught us that no mystery is too complex to understand, no evil too powerful to overcome, and no soul too lost to find its way home to peace.